everyone, Olive here, and welcome to my book review of The Nightingale by Kristin Hannah. To briefly summarize, The Nightingale is about the relationship of two sisters who are living in Nazi-occupied France, and it really chronicles their relationship, their past and how it affects their present, and the different directions their lives take throughout the war. And although they are leading very separate lives throughout the war, they definitely maintain a connection and come together at different parts of the war, and it really is a good way of showing the different lives that people led during World War II. So let me go over my thought process with this book. So first of all, I am not the kind of person who reads war fiction. That is definitely Rose's thing, more so than mine. I actually tend to avoid war fiction altogether, purposefully, for several reasons. The primary reason being is that with World War II novels, German people are vilified. I am fully aware that World War II was awful and that the Germans obviously needed to lose the war. However, you have to remember that a lot of people were forced into fighting for the German forces. The second reason that I don't like reading war fiction is that it really romanticizes a lot of awful things that happen. So as you've known, if you've watched any of my other videos, I do not like to read romantic, mushy-gushy stuff. It's not my thing. However, I think there's a few things in this world that should not be romanticized, war being number one. People go through awful things during war, and to sugarcoat it, paint it with rainbows and butterflies, I find is really disrespectful to the memories of those who fought in the war and those who suffered through the war, and I just really dislike reading war fiction. So now that that rant is over, I can tell you that I did not have high expectations when reading this book. Because I set my expectations quite low for this book, I actually did enjoy the first 3 or so chapters way more than I thought I would, and I was really shocked about this. I was really enjoying the setting the scene that Kristin Hannah did, and Kristin Hannah also did a good job of introducing the characters initially, I felt. However, that feeling ended very quickly for me. The first thing that sort of got me off of the Go Nightingale train is that Kristin Hannah uses a lot of cliches throughout her entire book, really, but especially so when she was talking about the characters past the point of the first introductions, when we really should have been starting to get to know the characters a bit more. I felt that she was using a lot of cliches and the same descriptors to further describe the characters. So beyond the initial roller coaster of starting to really like it and then starting to be disappointed, it sort of plateaued for a while for me, and this is a spoiler-free zone, but there's a certain point when one of the two characters' plot lines really picks up about midway through the novel, and then I started reading with a little bit more interest because I thought, hey, maybe everything is going to turn around now, maybe the characters will be a little bit more developed, and while I don't want to say I was very, very, very disappointed, it just didn't go far enough for me. I feel like this book has such potential to really have a fantastic plot and fantastic characters, and it's almost there for me, but I think, and I'm not trying to be mean, I think Kristin Hannah's writing style and inability to push the development of the plot and characters just sort of tanked that a little bit for me. I'm really not trying to tear Kristin Hannah down or those that really enjoy her books. I think Booktube is fantastic for showing lots of different opinions, and I really welcome yours in the comments below as well, please, because I do want to understand more what draws people to this book. Now, I'm going to stop being a negative Nancy because, on a totally different note, I've been trying to be more positive throughout my life, and I try and write down positive things I do every day to promote optimism in my life, and I'm going to try and do the same thing for this book. So here are 3 things that I found were positive about this book. Number 1, although I am critical of the plot and its development, I will say that it is not boring. So there are parts that are a bit stagnant. Number 2, this book talks about 2 sisters and sister relationships, and I really love books that talk about sisters and their relationships. I think that there are a lot more books starting to come out like that. Positive point number 3 is that the ending was much better than I ever could have imagined. And I actually wonder if the ending has a lot to do with the very high rating on Goodreads, because I could totally see that being the reason why so many people have rated this book so highly. This is a spoiler-free zone, so I will not discuss the ending. However, I will say that it wrapped up loose ends in a way that I did not think would happen with this book, as well as it really threw a, what's that expression when someone hits it from the side? Blindsided! I felt that the conclusion blindsided the reader, although I have to say I did guess how the blindsided bit was going to end. I guess that maybe 100 pages before the conclusion really got going. The conclusion of the book is what jumped my rating from a 2 stars to a 3 stars. Although I still didn't like the writing, the plot, or character development, or anything like that, I did really like the conclusion, so for me it really balanced out in the end. Thank you for taking the time to watch my book review. I don't know why that word was so hard to say. And make sure that you check out Rose's and Feather's book review as well for The Nightingale. We all had different opinions on it, so I sort of fall in the middle of not hating it but not loving it, and you'll have to watch Rose and Feathers to hear their opinions as well. Feel free to politely roast me in the comments below if you are offended by my review. Please explain to me why you loved it, why you didn't. I will see you next time. Happy reading!